To strengthen throughout the day after dropping further this morning. Well, the ANC had already decided at its national conference in December to support the expropriation of land without compensation. The president last night acknowledged there was a view that the constitution already allows for this. He said, however, the ANC had heard the voice of the people during those land hearings, and they want the constitution to be changed to explicitly allow for expropriation without compensation. That was reiterated by the Secretary General of the party today, who gave a more detailed report back on the ANC's lekgotla held on Monday and yesterday. He says the ANC will finalise a proposed amendment to the Constitution to go through Parliament. To discuss, we're joined by a member of the ANC's National Executive Committee, Ronald Lamola. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Lamola.
Thank you very much, and to your viewers at home.
So it seems pretty logical, because the ANC was already supporting this. What's the harm in making it explicit, avoiding any ambiguity? But you must have anticipated a market reaction. Is that something that party members discuss at a lekgotla like this?
Yes, we anticipated market reaction, but we said that obviously the market will, for it to be clear, they need certainty in terms of policy certainty. It's not the policy choice that you make, but it's that you must be clear what you want to do. And that's the reason why the president clarified what exactly we want to do. And I think that's the reason why you can see now the rand is stabilizing, because the market understands where exactly we are going in this regard.
Is there certainty, though? Because there's still so much speculation and so much uncertainty in my mind about what land will be expropriated. Are we talking about unused land? Are we talking about farming land? Why is the ANC not working to clarify that? Certainly that's the source of discontent.
We are working to clarify that, and that's why the president released the statement. I mean, it's surprising. We released the statement, it clarifies it. The public is still complaining that we are not clarifying it. So, but the reality is that that's what we are doing, and we are very clear that the land must be expropriated and redistributed to the people. It must be given to South Africans, and the type of land that we are going to expropriate, there will be an expropriation bill. The Department of Public Works is working on it now. It's in the National Council of Provinces, which is there's a bill which is before the National Council of Provinces. It's going to be withdrawn. It's going to be redrafted to incorporate the principle of without compensation. It's going to be to incorporate what categories of land are going to be expropriated and under which circumstances. For example, there's a lot of land lying fallow. There's a lot of land that is held by absentee landlords, held for speculation in the big cities. And it can be expropriated and be given to people for human settlement or for the purpose of creating emerging black commercial farmers. So there is a thought process that a Department of Public Works is going through, which is going to give us exactly the details, which they are going to release the draft bill soon. And I think that will clarify. So the draft bill will be informed by the research which they can do. So what we have become also very clear is the fact that there will be a need for us to be more clear, and so that in case this issue is needed for clarity or for any challenges anywhere, including in the Concord, where the government is able to justify. And that's why we're saying we're not going to expropriate houses of individuals, for example, because we will not be able to justify in the Constitutional Court why we have taken somebody's house, for example, because then we'll have to justify why you take a house of someone. What will government do with an individual's house? So such nonsenses are going to come out very clear in the expropriation bill. They will also come out very clear in a bill that will be drafted by the Department of Rural Development, a redistribution bill, which will then clarify how are you going to use the land, by who. Obviously, there are a lot of landless people in our cities. There's also a lot of landless people in the rural areas, the youth in the farms, the youth in rural areas, women and disabled people. They need the land to participate in the economy. Young people are unemployed in their majority. We need to give them some of this land to be able to unlock their skill and for them to work in the economy, including those that we need to bring next to the cities where they work, because majority of our people, they travel from, for example, Guamhlanga and Mpumalanga to Pretoria. So we need to bring them closer to the cities where they are able to work.
So how quickly does this clarification happen? There are those suggesting that this is, unfortunately, unfortunately a threat to government's investment drive. I believe that people are panicking, maybe unnecessarily. You're talking about those individual homeowners, but surely you want to let people know if they won't be affected. How quickly will it happen?
I think the Department of Public Works will, in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, the National Assembly or Parliament will withdraw the expropriation bill. We have already engaged with the Chief Whip of the ANC, who has started the process to withdraw the bill. And I think sooner after that, they will have to give clarity in terms of the department. I don't think it will take long. It will be some, because we also understand the agency to clarify in terms of the details, in terms of how it is going to be done.
What about those who are saying the ANC maybe is being a bit soft when it comes to traditional land? You're not clarifying there what's going to happen to people who are in some senses similar to labourers who have no property rights, no chance of getting property rights.
No, we are not being soft. Remember, the ANC was formed to respond to the 1913 Land Act, which dispossessed black people, and they remain in 13% of the land. And since 1994, the ANC has redistributed the land. We had 87% by 1994. By now, we've got 72%, which we need to transform. So the 13% of the land is within our hands. It's not a part of the constitutional review process. So
aren't those people, Mr. Lamola, de facto dispossessed?
Let me finish. We want to make sure that this transformation must go into the 72% of the land. But also with regard to communal land, the lekgotla and many of our meetings have been very clear that we need to give security of tenure to rural people. It's 22 million rural South Africans who are living in communal areas who are not clear in terms of their security of tenure. And in that regard, we are also going to draft clear bills and laws that will respond to that, to give clear security of tenure to the rural people, the 22 million people.
That's why I raise it, because I believe that the ANC believes in property rights, where you can actually own something, you can pass it on, you can use it to grow businesses.
Yeah, but it's not as easy as that. For example, in rural areas today, land in rural areas is very cheap. One of the studies that we are doing, we want to understand that aspect, because if you immediately give title deeds, which we are looking at, you are going to commercialize rural land, which might end up dispossessing rural people cannot afford that land. So we're looking at whether we might have to maybe register, for example, the PTOs which they have, and put a provision that they cannot be arbitrarily evicted and so forth. But that will be informed by study. What type of tenure will ensure the security of tenure, because the title deed might also have unintended consequences. So that's what we are busy studying.
And what about the President's previous call for an audit on all land? We don't know who owns what.
No, we know.
How much government owns.
No, we know.
Do we know? Why did he call for that audit?
There is an audit that was done by the Department of Rural Development, and that's where I'm quoting from when I say that there's still 72% which is still in the hands of those that benefited under apartheid. There's also land, and 13% of the land, some of it is in government, some of it is in communal land, but it's a small fraction of the land. The majority of the land of the country is still owned by those who benefited under apartheid. So there is an audit that was done by the Department of Rural Development, and for us, we are using that as our base study.
So why did the President call for an audit? Why are people saying we don't know how much land government owns?
He has never called for an audit. The President has always referred to the audit that the Department of Rural Development has done, which was released, I think, in September of last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
All right, so we can check up on that, because I remember it. Let's end very quickly with the stimulus program. So a lot of questions around that. How's this going to happen in a way that doesn't strain the fiscus?
There is already people who have committed in terms of investment, but the stimulus program, we also want to stimulate the economy, particularly to respond to youth unemployment, women unemployment, to also be able to deal with creating of jobs, but also to stimulate the economy to grow at a level where it can be able to respond to job creation. So that is what government will try to do.
All right, so much more to discuss, but we've run out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That was ANC National Executive Committee member Ronald Lamola.